Hello. Hello, everyone. How are you? How are you? I can see there's quite a few people in chat already. Um, so yeah, normally what we do is we take questions from chat. Um, that being said, I know everyone probably has, I don't know, comments, concerns, questions around soon. So I think we're gonna address that first. Go through some stuff. For him, and then I hope you guys have questions, for the team, and normal stuff, how scrims are going, whatever it might be. I always get the Pokemon question. It's Charmander. Don't ask that question. Red's my favorite color, but I love blue too because I have to, because it's Boston Uprising. But yeah. Anyways, hello everyone. So yeah, like let's talk about where is soon question. And I think the best way to go about this is I put together kind of like a short list of what has been asked on Twitter, Reddit, um, I don't know, clarifications that I can go through, hopefully to add some transparency and perspective on the situation, kind of like a peek behind the curtain, that is Overwatch League operations for GMs, presidents, things like that. So let's start there. Okay, so first question: are you going to kick Fusions too? No. So there's a big difference between Fusions and Soon. Fusions actually has his visa. There's just a travel restriction between the UK and the US. I mean, UK and a lot of places in the world, because they're not part of the European Union. They've had some, different COVID cases that have escalated and taken a different turn. So that's its own problem. Like Fusions, we have to try to figure out a situation. I don't want to get into a lot of detail, but figure out a situation where we can get him to the US. And that might be, to another country to quarantine first and then come to the US. But we're assessing options. He has his visa. There's just that travel restriction. With Soon, it's different. He never had his visa. He never had the NIE exemption, which are two things I'm going to talk about, as we continue the conversation. Why could FD God and other guys get visa but not Soon? So yeah, like, there's a lot of players within Europe or out of Europe that have gotten visas. There's a few different elements to this when it comes to players getting visas. First and foremost, every individual is very different when it comes to visas, getting visas, acquiring visas. There's multiple steps when it comes to it. It's who do you interview with? How does that interview go? Are they looking for more information? Do you just automatically get approved or not? Soon was a player that was signed later in the season for us. I'm not sure, on the particulars of FD God's situation or any other player situation on their visa process, but for Soon in particular, we had to start that visa process, from the beginning. He didn't already have an existing visa in place, and he was later in the process, to get that visa. Um, so yeah, um, just different people, different situations. Next common question I kind of saw come up a lot was, the Philadelphia Fusion tweet, last year's situation with Fielder, can you guys go that route? So I'm going to kind of like lay a basis here, because I think there's a lot of, I mean, in general, people like to see things in black and white. Um, situations aren't really black and white, right? Generally speaking, in life, there's many shades of gray. And I saw people, when initially we came out with our announcement, people are like, very unhappy with Boston Uprising and immediately putting a lot of blame on us and assuming that we didn't have the best intentions, or we didn't try to do as much as we could for Soon. And then once Soon came out with his tweet longer today, I saw people now going after Overwatch League, and saying like, there was a part in Soon's message where like, players couldn't compete, or he wasn't allowed to compete in the league if he didn't have a visa. So I'm going to clarify a few things. I would say from the beginning, Overwatch League has always tried to kind of change esports in gaming in the sense that they wanted to have like a bare minimal threshold for all players, like the 50K salary, you're a real employee, you're not an independent contractor, you get all the benefits as an employee, you have to have a proper visa, and that makes sense because for a franchise league, you don't want like bad actors in the space cutting corners, flying in people with visitor visas or whatever it might be. All good, great things, right? So last year, COVID hits, and that kind of screws everything up, right? Essentially, you had probably, the majority of the league or a significant part that were not going to be able to compete, right? All of a sudden, travel was a lot more difficult. Getting a visa was more difficult. Doing anything internationally was more difficult. So the league, made, changes to its rule set as far as, what could happen, where people could play from. Obviously, the idea would always still be to have players compete and play, out of your home region, whatever that might be for ping issues or just, coordination issues, logistically, etc. Um, we, for our company, our HR department, that wasn't something that we could do for many legal and HR reasons. So even last year, when we lost Axiom, we lost Brussin, we lost Mufin. When we had to replace those players, we could not employ people internationally. We could not. Um, it was a hard thing to get our heads wrapped around in the sense that normally when you employ someone, you have to fly them here. You have to get them their visa. You got to get them their social security card. You got to set up a bank account, and then you can start paying them. You have to go through all those steps to get them paid. And if you do not go through those steps, you really can't pay them, and you shouldn't be paying them. There are some workarounds to that. Our approach from a company, I don't want to get into like a lot of details. We weren't comfortable doing that, and that's why we picked up Punk. So people don't know, Punk is actually a U.S. citizen. We picked up Mikey obviously as well, a U.S. citizen last year. Going into this year, the league tried to take extra precaution when it came to visas, in the sense that we had an elongated offseason to give teams ample time to get their visas, get their players into the country, and hopefully have a smooth season. Now, in practice, is that actually going to happen? Hard to say. Obviously with Soon, we tried really, really hard. We spent thousands of dollars. We spent a lot of resources. Me, my managers, our legal group, we consulted multiple legal groups, saying, is there any way we can make this happen? Is there anything that we can do? And unfortunately, there was not. A key component to that is on March 2nd, there was there's this thing called a national interest exemption that you need to obtain to get a visa. Some countries require it, some countries don't. Most of the European countries, you need that to be able to get a visa, one, and two, they're extremely hard to get. And on March 2nd, that exemption went from pretty hard to get to even harder to get. And when you try to get that from a legal perspective, you have to basically try to prove that the player is important to your infrastructure and bottom line as a company, right? So like me personally, I wrote a letter. Our company wrote a letter. The league wrote a letter, testifying to the fact that for Soon, he's a very popular player. He's great for merch sales, great for jersey sales, great for skin sales. From a competitive standpoint, like is our Tracer ace, our Widow ace, like this is someone that we're like really counting on to have on our team. And Soon, it didn't work out. He went in for the interview. We've been trying for months to get it done. And it just isn't happening. And then once that NIE special exemption came into place and became more strict and more difficult, it was obvious. And as I said, from our own legal group that we work with, for the last few years, and then we also consulted other legal groups, all said that it was, in as close to impossible, very, very unlikely to be able to get his visa, sadly. Um, So, at that point, we've had many blockades. We've tried really hard, spent a lot of time and effort to get his visa, and just weren't able to, not able to employ him. Um, you know, just sucked. Um, yeah. So, um, there were also questions around, soon the contract. Like I know Avast tweeted about it. So actually within, once again, I don't want to get into super fine details, but within Overwatch League contracts, you can actually terminate a player with cause. So termination with cause and without cause is just like basic terms of, did you have proper right to terminate them, or are you terminating them, for other reasons? They, didn't do anything wrong. I'm giving like they explain like I'm five version, but it is what it is. So you can actually terminate with cause when they cannot acquire a visa. That being said, soon, you know, in our eyes, did nothing wrong. Had been, with the team, doing what he could the whole time, helping us with the visa process. Kind of unlucky, kind of sucks. So we did pay him, for the time that he was on the team. We did try to do right by him, and take care of him. We, still sucks, still sad about it, still wish he was here, still wish he could be here. But I want to make it clear that, from a company perspective, from me personally making decisions perspective as well, we tried to do everything that we could right by Soon. I don't think the Overwatch League has done anything wrong in this sense either. I think most people are trying to like pick, as is common in the world, pick like the villain, black and white, who is wrong here. The reality is that, there's a global pandemic. If you asked any GM, any president in Overwatch League, like how this situation plays out, has it been easy? Has it been difficult? They're going to tell you 100% that it's been extremely difficult. There's a lot of instances and a lot of problems across the league, across many teams. People are still trying to figure it out. With Philly Fusion, I don't, know what they particularly going to do. I know they announced Hoppa today. Maybe they're going to find replacements and hope that, the COVID situation and geopolitical situation gets better. Or maybe they're going to find, I don't know, visas to Turkey and play from Turkey with slightly better ping. I can't speak on their behalf. I don't know what they're doing, but yeah, that's just it. Yeah. So yeah. We paid Soon for the time that he was on the team. He didn't get paid out on his full contract, but we did. We didn't have to legally, but we, did pay him for the time that he was on the team, which I think, is right to do. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we're gonna have to make some adjustments internally. Now that Suna's not on the team, right? That means that our DPS players are going to have to flex a little bit more. It's a little bit more difficult, but it sucks. And I feel for Soon too, right? Like, this was a guy that we pursued, that we really wanted a team. That I think he was happy to be here too and excited to come and live with the team. I know from I don't know. I just like I wish people gave more credit or best intentions to everyone. The league would love to have Soon play. We would love to have Soon play. Soon would love to play. Like everyone approached this, trying to do what we could, to make it right, to get him to play. But reality isn't like that. And this isn't a problem that is only for Overwatch League, right? We're a traditional sports organization. I talked to Brian Bolello, who's the president of our soccer team, MLS soccer team. They have tons of issues. Major League Baseball has tons of issues. There's a lot of people from the Dominican Republic who can't get into the country to play baseball right now. And it's weird to me that people are like being, I don't know, so like if those big traditional sports leagues are having problems, if there are players that are not able to get into the country who have, multi-million-dollar contracts, you know, to play in traditional sports leagues. And I'm sorry, I'm a big believer in esports, and I know we're going to get there someday, but we're not there yet. But those are bigger businesses, more important to the economy, with more power, more leverage. And if those, they're having issues, and there's players that can't get in the country, can't compete, there are going to be similar or worse issues in Overwatch League, even if we do everything right. And I wish more people would, take that into consideration and understand that just kind of sucks, kind of unlucky, as Soon said. Um, yeah. So, anyways, I'll do follow-up questions on the Soon thing. I hope I addressed most of the concerns. I know there's probably still questions. You know, I think the league would have loved if everyone could get visas, everyone could be in their home countries. I think there might be adjustments going forward. I assume, because there's still quite a few players that are, I don't know, like in purgatory limbo, visa hell maybe. But every company, every player, every instance is going to be different in how they handle this situation. So I'm not Cohen. I'm not going to do Joe Mamas or any of the iterations other than that. Yeah. Um, Shubi says, any plans on finding a fourth DPS, Stellar, Sigma innovation? So Stellar's on our CAD team. We're assessing options for player signings. Another factor that I don't want to harp on or go into too much detail. Philly Fusion has a lot of resources. I would say, if anyone's a fan of the league and has been following the league, you could say that they have more resources than us. The fact that we can employ Soon means that we're going to have a little bit of budget. Not sure what's going to happen with that, but we are assessing options. As I said, like, Soon not being on the team kind of hurts us in some regards for the DPS role. I think we'll assess all roles and then just kind of look at like where the biggest value add is for us. So yeah, that's it. Josh asks, FD God recently did an interview where he talked about scrims. He said Boston and Glads are the toughest people to face. Can you add anything? I think scrim bucks are a little bit all over the place. Like, I'm happy that we're doing at least pretty well. Like, I think no matter what power ranking you're looking at, we're not bottom of any of them, which is great. I think we have a lot more work to do. I think all of our goals from, a management point of view, ownership point of view, coach point of view, player point of view is not to be average. So we're not like, oh, we're not complete crap this year. That's great. We're kind of looking at improving. I think, I don't think we're like a top 3 team right now. I wouldn't put us, top 2, as FD God maybe said, but I appreciate the credit he's giving us. I think we can be that. I think more likely we're like a top 5, top 6 team right now in NA. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Does Fusions have a visa? I answered this earlier, but yes, Fusions has a visa. He has travel restrictions, which we were trying to work around, and go. So Pimpingdom, Pepin Pum. Why does Overwatch League doesn't change the rules about visa? That's ridiculous with COVID. This isn't a and once again, like I feel like people once again jump from Boston to Overwatch League to some degree. This isn't a Overwatch League rule set. This is like a United States world geopolitical rule set. If traditional sports athletes are having issues getting the same visas that our players in Overwatch leagues have issues on too, it's a worldwide issue. This isn't something that Overwatch League could snap their fingers, fix, and improve. I think the one thing that Overwatch League could do is if they were on the major league sports list in gaming and esports, which they are not. but they're working on actively and trying to get on, which is basically just a list of all the major sports leagues like MLS, MLB, NFL, etc., NHL, to get visas. Overwatch League isn't on that list. They could be on the list, but it's not something that you can immediately fix. And even if they were on that list, all of those sports leagues are still having those issues. Like NFL is having less because they don't have a lot of international players. But yeah. Somebody asked, what players did you want but didn't get? It's an interesting question. Let me look. Let me look at a quick list. Like, there's some players off the top of my head that I immediately think of. So I think and I don't know if this would be like we would swap them one for one, but we had interest in them, had conversations, and there was a possibility, and it didn't work out for one way or another. So from that list, like some of the names I can think of soon. First one, wish he was on the team. I would say other than that, Muse. Muse was somebody. We had some interest in Crimzo, but we didn't really get along far along in our process of evaluation. But he was an interesting target, and he's, as far as I know, doing pretty well. Dante. Dante is someone I've liked since like season 1, but it didn't work out. There's a short list of players I would say that we had interest in, but I don't think there's anyone that we were really, really hurting with that we feel like we have not covered thus far in our signings. So yeah. What are the plans for the academy team? Oh, Josh actually says checkmate. So I think there's a list of players that we saw value in but didn't work out because of like budget reasons. Like we had to be tactical about who we picked up or didn't pick up. So there's also a long list of players like Piggy. Piggy was someone that we trialed, we thought was really good, and we're like, man, would love to have him, but not going to work out. Checkmate was also someone that we felt was very interesting, had a lot of potential. Anyways, what are the plans for the academy team? So with the academy team for this year, we're planning on maintaining probably a full Korean roster, probably staying in Korea. I'm always going to be a guy that says like probably as much as I can, or this is a high percentage chance. I don't like to deal in ultimatums, absolutes, I guess, better word. Not a Sith from Star Wars. You know, I think as COVID changes, as that geopolitical landscape, visas change, we'll reassess. But as of right now, that's what we felt matched the team best. Would love to do well in academy. I think we've been struggling for a while now. On the competition and being successful side, I don't think we've struggled with finding talent. We find talent and we graduate talent or sell talent pretty well. But I want to have a competitive team that is successful as well. So, any plans on promoting Good Bowl C? So, as I said, we're kind of assessing everything right now. I'm not sure if we're going to pick up anyone, but we're assessing things, and we'll see. And it might be, I don't know, what role. I think we don't need another main tank because we have 2. But other than that, we're kind of assessing everything. How do I feel about our depth this year compared to before? Asks Lazy KO. Feel pretty good. I think it's hard to know until you get into the metas, and that's kind of difficult, right? Like you try to not only understand the proficiency in each player's character pool, hero pool, but then you also try to understand their potential for picking up heroes, right? So if the meta does shift, does change, they can adapt. I think this year we have more depth than we've had in previous years. Like last year, as I explained earlier, we didn't have a lot of depth, and it was really hard to get a lot of depth because we really could only pick up US players, which was its own situation that sucked on its own. But I think this year we have more depth. Obviously not having Soon kind of still hurts us. That means our DPS players have to be even more flexible, but It kind of is what it is. It kind of sucks. That AFK noob said, any players who went far in your trials that didn't end up making Overwatch League? Yeah, there's a few. But for us, that's kind of like our short list of players to look out for. One to maybe sign, or sign to academy, or to keep an eye on going into next year. So I'm not going to give you specifics on who those players were, but there are a few. Last question about Soon. Will, could you help him get a new team? From Summerchild. I mean, I'm not sure what we could do or I could do. Besides, like, he is a veteran in every sense of the word. We even had our social media manager who left the company a couple weeks back comment on this, but he is extremely professional. Like you through working with players, some players are like harder to manage. You ask them for X, Y, and Z, and that might be like a picture, a social media post, help liking or retweeting something, whatever it might be. Soon immediately was like not only professional but completely bought in to the company from like day one, right? Like, hey, we want to do this announcement. He's like, oh, great, cool. Do you mind if I do my own content? Like, I stream when it's announced so I can hype it up too. No, that's awesome. Merch, social media stuff, anything and everything. He was extremely helpful. Pleasant to work with. Calm, cool presence in the like locker room as far as like dealing with the other players. I know him and Fusions, especially because they were both stuck in the EU, played a lot of duo rank together. He was great. Like I said, wish he was here. Sorry, I'm gonna try to scroll back up and do questions one at a time so I'm not missing any of them. James Dolly asks, is the atmosphere more confident going into the season compared to previous seasons? Yes. I would say our scrim results generally are better. Confidence in the team are better. There's a lot of new faces. In general, I would say everyone's a lot more confident. J-Nub asks, do you feel as though next season it's likely that you'll transition to a full Korean roster? Interesting question. I'm not sure. I would say that, if you're looking at the league from an analytical point of view, as far as demographics, the league has been turning more and more Korean. I would say if you looked at like Riot, League of Legends, and you said, hey, if you guys could import as many players as you want, would the overall league look more Korean? Probably. I wish there was more to do to help the Western scene. I mean, this is an age-old problem going back to my old pro gaming days with StarCraft 2, and there was a debate of should you region lock, should you not region lock, what are the rules, how do you do that? And I think it's a complicated question that I could do a whole its own AMA on, and the difference in culture and socioeconomic structure and tons of stuff. So I'm not sure on whether we'll be full Korean next year or not. My goal was always to have a Western presence on the team because I felt like that was important. We'll have to see. I mean, I think in general the league is going more and more Korean as time goes on. Josh asks, can you say if you're helping and support the Korean players? Fearless racism comments. So I asked our players and our coach Lori, have they dealt with any of that racism here in Massachusetts? None of them have dealt with any of it. I told them if it ever did, occur for them to please elevate it to me or, our managers and, let us know as soon as possible. I would say the most racism is probably towards Acecroft and him being French and kind of quirky. But that's it. And it's all in like a joking, fun nature. So what's an underrated team apart from Boston? I mean, I think people have been, I don't know what, like determining whether something is underrated or not is, like your own definition of power rankings. But I think like most people have been saying that Atlanta Reign is pretty strong right now, and I think they are pretty strong right now. So that's one team I would say that's been doing well, that people traditionally wouldn't put very high up on power rankings. Jono22's ask, here's one. Laurie is a really good pickup at coach. Are you excited about him being able to bring the most out of able to bring out the most in some of your more lackluster players on the roster? I mean, I think across the board, Laurie is going to be able to untap the potential in our players. I think he has a very unique coaching style. I think he is a lot more strict and a little bit of a ball buster compared to some of our past coaches, especially Western coaches. So it's very, very different from last year, but he is pushing our players as much as possible to make the most out of them. And I think a lot of our players need that. So we'll see, I guess. How did I feel about Overwatch League Twitter leaking Valentine? Happens. We all make mistakes. There was no animosity there. What is the goal for the Boston Uprising this year? Ben Starr asks. I think make playoffs at the end of the year. I feel like that, I said the same thing last year. I think every competitive franchise league, the goal is kind of to make the end of year playoffs and then go from there. I would love to go to Hawaii, so if we could do it one of these months, that'd be nice. That'd be cool. So we'll see what happens. Who do you think is going to be a hard opponent based on scrims? Gladiators are really tough. Atlanta's really tough. Shocker tough. Houston's also probably an underrated team, depending on where you traditionally put them. Tricky Zerg asked, what happened in season 3? I covered this earlier, but I'll do like a short version of the answer now. We lost a lot of key players. We weren't able to replace them, right? We basically had to pick from a talent pool that were U.S. citizens. Things could have been better, but kind of a crappy year in multiple regards. I think even if we had the right players, maybe would have been difficult. It's hard to say. Failure and success, once again, not a black and white issue. Many shades of gray, many things that could have gone better, could have been different. So I don't want to make it, all based on that, but that was, one of the bigger reasons, I would say. What does Boston define as a successful season for this year? I would say playoffs, end of the year. If we can make playoffs by the end of the year, a plus 500 win-loss ratio in a traditional sports sense, I think that's what I would define as success. I think if you asked our coach, players, you would get different answers. But generally speaking, we all, want to be a winning team, and we want to make playoffs by the end of the year and make a run of it. Uga01 asks, will Color Hex remain a flex DPS, or is he going to become more hit scan oriented? I think more hit scan oriented, but caveat there that like he's going to play what the team needs at the end of the day, right? He's going to play what the team needs. He's going to play what he excels at, and that's where he's going to be. I think now that we have Valentine, who is a very strong player, I'm tend to think that he's going to be more on the hit scan side, but realistically, he's just going to play what's needed. Jade Nub asks, oh, I lost it for a second. Give me a second, Jade Nub. Where'd your question go? If he played for a European operating team, then he could play, but I don't know if there are any right now, and he doesn't want to do contenders. Wasn't a question, but yeah, that sounds, I mean, again, I can't comment on everyone's situation, but obviously a European company not needing a visa, probably a lot easier. So yeah. Dick Earthquake, love the name. I'm gonna take it as like the American first name, Dick, for PR and sponsorship reasons. I'm sure you considered this, but could you sign soon as a content creator so you could continue to sponsor his work visa, then sign as a player when he gets it? So the visa issue would still be more or less the same. him being a content creator versus being a pro player, I don't know if that makes his visa easier or harder, but it does not change the fact that he still has a very large visa issue, which we cannot solve. We can't pay him, we can't employ him. That's just something we're not able to do. So it doesn't really change anything. What causes player conflict and how do you resolve it? That's like Cohen asked that, but it's a too broad and specific. I would say in general, communication, transparency, understanding, which are also ambiguous in open-ended terms, but I can't, if it's more specific, I could answer. Yeah, the league is very Korean/Asian based. The Rolling Stone 11 asks, what, if any, challenges do you encounter moving your academy team to Korea? Does having an academy team help acquire visas for those players? Um, so having an academy team maybe helps a little bit. I don't think it really moves the needle significantly on visas, but I would say that South Korea as a country right now has a lot less visa restrictions than the general European region. So one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, in Europe that you need that is very difficult to get and has become even more difficult in the last month or so is a national interest exemption. In Korea, you don't need that at all, as far as I understand currently right now. So getting a visa in Korea is similar pre-COVID to now, where in Europe things have changed a lot since pre-COVID to now. Tyler Longmire says, will there be any person in Boston area events this year? As far as I know, currently right now, there is nothing being planned. I know we have some watch parties and stuff, virtual for sure. Others to be determined. Other than that, nothing right now. But we do practice out of Helix. So Helix is a gaming center. I don't know how you want to define it. They have a lot of I would say like PC Bong, living in Korea, but they have a lot of other things. They have like this really nice pizza place that's attached to it at Patriot Place in Foxborough. So we actually, practice out of there, on a weekly basis, planning to do our matches out of there. But as far as like holding an event, as of right now, I couldn't say more. Jack72 asks, is this core one that you are looking to keep for years to come? I don't want to get into the details of our player contracts, but I would say obviously we're always thrifty as far as like what we do from a team perspective and what we can do, but we're happy with the players that we have currently. Things change as the season goes well, doesn't go well, off season, looking at talent, possibly Overwatch 2, other considerations. So I'm never going to give you like a final answer, but we're happy with our players, and we'll see in the off season. I know that's a very fluffy political answer, but that's all you're going to get from me. Jean Xavier Renaud asks, why do you think the league goes Korean while the regular season top 3 teams last year, Philly Fusion, San Francisco, PE, NNA, were all mixed rosters? I mean, I look at those teams and I see big budgets, to be honest. I think ultimately the Korean market is oversaturated with talent who are desperate to be in the league. And once again, we're getting into like this in a Western culture versus Asian culture, Korean culture specifically, differences in the regions. There's a lot to unwrap here, and I'm not gonna go. I could, but I don't want to go into a long explanation of this. But I would say in general, the Korean market, there's more talent who are willing to sign for less compared to Western regions. That's just how it is, and that's why the league keeps going more and more Korean. And I think there are like larger issues with this, in the sense that there's more players on the Asian server. Their servers ranked games are generally more competitive, less toxic, less trolly. Like there is just like such a long laundry list of things that we could get into. Some fixable, some easy to fix, some harder to fix. But in general, there's just more Korean talent that are willing to sign for less. Just kind of how it go. Bad Pachamari with his Mimi videos harassing me on Twitter all the time. Um, Tell me why I should have Boston top 10 this year. Um, I mean, I don't know. We're better than we were the last years. I think consistently Scrim has put us higher than we were last year's. I think as this season goes on, we'll be stronger. Like we have a rough run of it. The first two, I don't know what you want to call them, monthly tournaments, the May Melee and whatever comes after that. Um, but I think as the season progresses, we'll be stronger, and I think already we're better than what we usually are the last couple of years. Do I get to play much Overwatch myself? Depends. The last few weeks I haven't, but previously, when we first started getting into the season, um, I can't lie, I get like a little motivated. You watch a little bit of scrims, you're getting heated, you're getting motivated, you're hearing some coaching. So yeah, I play a little bit. I would say I'm pretty consistently, within the like 3,900 to 4.3K range of SR. Um, I mean this last year, I before I started playing like a month or two ago, I hadn't played for a year. Um, and I, can climb, do well, go up and down. So yeah. What Marth 485 asks, what are some changes? Where did it go? Whenever I scroll down, I lose the question. Sorry. What are some changes you like to see come to Overwatch League in the future? I would say in general, I would love to see just more around competitive play. Um, Not even Overwatch League, just in general, like ranked play, more incentives to take it more seriously. I think there are a lot of small fixes, low hanging fruit, that can be done to ranked play, to overall competitive, to contenders, to the whole funnel leading up to Overwatch League, and bringing the mass general base towards making competitive more interesting. That could be implemented to making Overwatch League a more entertaining and fun experience. But I think it's more to that pathway to Overwatch League than Overwatch League itself. I think Overwatch League. Um, hmm, I think Overwatch League should lean into the international basis. I think after COVID, leaning into something that's more international would be better. And I've had this comment I've had this thought for a long time, but I think you can still have a priority on the importance of regions while leaning into the fact that it is an international competition. Um, you know, every city, you know, annually or biannually having like a big event, right? I think when you have big events in cities for esports and gaming, they do really well, right? Like when you think of like the last time, um, I don't know, a DreamHack or a LCS or whatever it might be was in Toronto. Toronto, the city that I used to live in. They've done really really well, and I think you can provide that experience for the Overwatch League cities while still having international competition. I don't know if that means that you house all the teams on a weekly basis in one region, Burbank, or I don't care, Burbank, China, South Korea, wherever, and then you do kind of like a qualifying online or just in person in that area broadcasted, but not like no major tentpole event. And then like X amount of teams qualify, and then they all go to Boston, and maybe Boston Uprising always has a slot at the Boston events, right? And the LA teams have theirs, or LA Valiant China, or whatever it ends up being, right? Um, but I think there's a way to do the region cities events really really well and make them super successful, exciting, and fun for everyone, while maintaining a balance for P&L, profits and loss, just the balance sheet, um, and make it fun for the players and not logistically difficult. So if I was in charge, that's how I would do it. I put all the teams one area after COVID, maybe it's Burbank, wherever. And then I would say, you know what, these are the teams this year. Maybe it's every team gets one event, or maybe it's, every 2 years you get a big event, and then just do like the monthly stops like that at each city. Josh says, looking at the Boston schedule, you probably have the hardest schedule. What are your thoughts on that? I think the first half is really tough. I think the second half is a little weaker. At the end of the day, you got to beat the best teams to be the best. So we're always just gonna do the best that we can do. But yeah, like definitely the first half is a lot tougher. So we just want to make it to the playoffs and go from there. Just Zako asked, what do you think of Paris this season? Do you think they would struggle a lot, like a lot of people say, or are they going to do better than expected? Hard to know, right? I think it's really hard to know, especially right now, because so many teams have had so long to practice on the current patch. Once we actually get into the season and you have a more limited amount of time to get used to patches, we're going to see a lot more as far as what value teams have and what metas they have value in. And then who knows what patch you end up at the end of the year, right? That's kind of like a general, that's how it goes Overwatch League system currently. And I don't think it's the wrong system. It's just, how it be. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think, I don't think Paris is one of the stronger teams, but I don't necessarily think they're going to be dead last either, right? I think a lot of people, for example, were also memeing on London, and London's like a pretty strong team. Just depends, when you're asking that question, everything fluctuates as the season progresses. So Dick Earthquake, once again, asking, have you tried convincing the foreign players that President's Day is about you? No, I have not. I don't think they would fall for that, but we do. I would say I'm one of the more jokey comedic personalities on the team. I don't think the players particularly get to see that a lot. Some of them do sometimes, but try to have fun with them, do fun stuff, be generally friendly. Haven't tried to convince them of that though. No. Sir Technical asks, what was the thought process from picking heavily from WGS? I mean, we liked Lori. Their players did well in our trials. Lori was someone we picked up pretty early on. He had good things to say about them as people, kind of like the softer side of scouting. He also really wanted some of them. So, everything kind of lined up in that way where we're like, okay, we feel pretty confident. Let's go forward with these guys. Roller asks, why did you decide not to pick up some of the other WGS players like Z-Bag, Inocas, or Ace? And having Gabolsi on the academy team when he was also a part of the championship WGS Phoenix team. So actually Z-Bag is also on our academy team, just a small edit there. And I would say just less confidence, similar response to the question that was, prior. We saw those players as well. There are varying levels of needing them, and then two, confident. I'm not trying to take away from any of those players. I think a lot of them did do well in our trials, but ultimately you have to make tough decisions. Grow Roots asks, thoughts on the improved quality of EU and NA contenders this season? Anyone you're able to say has caught the interest of the organizations from either of those regions? Yeah, tons of players. I mean, I would say American Tornado, super interesting, very interested in them. We had a few conversations with them, seeing if they, wanted to be a version of our academy team, like some of the players would and some of the players wouldn't. Some months ago, they passed on that offer. But I think like obviously a lot of talent there. There's a lot. Rhino used to be on our academy team. Got a lot of love for him. He's super young, so it doesn't really make sense for us to keep him or any academy team to sign him when he's like, I don't even know how old he is now, maybe 14, 15. But he's still like 3 or 4 years away from Overwatch League. Love to see Cloudy win. Love to see Icy win. There's a lot of players that I've talked to, had conversations with. I'm generally like, I like this person. They seem good. I hope they continue to do well. Too many to name, but there's a few. Connor Mays asks, why is Valentine going to win Rookie of this season? Because he's going to pop off. let's see. Sorry, looking. Overwatch League doesn't accept independent contract for players. Well, in general, from an employment standpoint, at least in the US, um, and this changes. Once again, there are a lot of esports gaming organizations that have a decent number of independent contractors on their payroll. We, as the craft group, do not. In general, there is kind of like a line of, this is a very simplified version of like independent contractor, um, what do I say, like hourly employee, and then like salaried employee. And as you move across this scale, you have more employee benefits, more guarantees. And as you move, more to the independent contractor, you have less. And that goes like, it might be healthcare, it might be guaranteed money, it might be termination rights, like how easily can you be fired or not fired. Um, and as I said, I think Overwatch League, rightly so, on the onset of launching this franchise league, wanted to have all players be fully functional, you know, full employees of, whatever team they're playing for. And that's largely in part to protect the players. Making a player an independent contractor basically gives them not a lot of those rights, right? Like maybe they won't have healthcare, maybe they can be fired very easily with little to no, money for their end. There's a lot of things that go into that. So in general, I think it is better for players to be, fully functional employees, essentially. Who's now the Tracer player? I think right now, without soon, Valentine's probably our stronger Tracer player. Inconightful. I don't know if that's a word or a mix of words. I'm sorry. Are you the same Huck from SC2? Yes, I am. Where did you get that haircut? My wife cut my hair. I've been looking for a barber with such skill. Well, it takes her 2 hours, but she does a pretty decent job. So yeah, that was only something we started experimenting with during COVID too. So TD Zism asks, compared to past offseason, would you say this was the most difficult? I don't know. Probably not. Not for us. But it depends, I guess, why what's the context in which that question's being asked. The nameless cupcake, Stan One has looked rough on Monkey, and Ryan Fusion's going to play. I don't think anything's decided right now. Stan One's like kind of like quote unquote our starter. I think, we'll adjust as metas adjust, but right now we think Stan One is the starter for the team. Anthony Rodriguez asks, "Hi Huck, are you guys hiring staff?" No. Sorry. Sorry, I don't know what to say. No, we're not. As far as I know, we're not. Lazy KO, what do you consider the team's identity going into this season? I don't know. The team's identity? I would hope wholesome, fun, aggressive. It depends, like, are you asking from a competitive point of view, a content point of view, branding? Kind of difficult. Sorry, Anthony, by the way. I didn't mean to be so harsh there. We're not. Colin Sukup asks, how do you think Stan One and Fusions will split time as they both have good rinds? Unsure. We definitely want to make sure that the players get opportunities to prove themselves. So we're trying to implement that, in a, I don't know what to call it. Like when I was in wrestling, we had, once a week you could challenge the guy that, was the person that was going to wrestle at that weight. And if you won, you got to wrestle at that meet kind of thing. So we're trying to do something comparable. It's a lot harder in a team game compared to wrestling, but we're trying to give opportunities to guys, and then the guys who play the best are going to play. Bottom line. Matt is going to ask, Matt, our formal social media / PR wizard, who left us, sadly, tear. Matt asks, can you talk about the dynamic of having Punk as the only Western starter, at least going off previous tourneys, and how much of a role does IM37 play in translating and shot calling? Sure. So yeah, like we see ourselves as a Western team, so we always want to have English being the primary language spoken by the team in game. Out of game, as much as we can too, but it's obviously not going to occur. So we try to provide resources for our players, in the sense of lessons, tutors, just general encouragement to learn and communicate in English. Are we be right back? Nope, we're back. Um, Go ahead, production. Talk to me. Everything cool? Okay. Um, I don't know. It is what it is. I mean, that means a lot of our Korean players have to learn quite a bit of English to communicate. It means Punk has to, learn a different style of playing sometimes. It work with, like our Korean head coach, who's I would say a culture difference between the two. I am 37 has not only been a great player, really nice guy, really wholesome, also like extremely fluent in both Korean and English. So that makes a burden off of our manager Mike's translation duties, and also just like a higher pedigree as far as like Overwatch understanding, right? Because essentially you're speaking three languages. You're speaking English, Korean, and then Overwatch is kind of like its third language of understanding. And if you're a pro player, you speak both languages fluently, and you're also very good at the game, you're going to add tremendous value. And that's not only directly in your play, but as far as the overall team, which I'm sure Matt, but a good question nonetheless. So yeah. What's my opinion on Super Genji situation? I don't know. It's like it's a meme thing, like Super Genji is not horrible. He's a pro player. I think almost all pro players can off roll at a fairly decent level. The fact that he played Genji against us, I mean, cool. Like San Francisco Shock last year were such a better team than us. I'm sure Krusty could have hopped in and maybe they would have still won. Um, I don't know. Is what it is, you know. In Cone Nightfall, just wondering, have you ever thought of Desro to be in your roster? No. No, never. Never. That thought has never crossed my mind. Brian Rockwood asks, how have things been going for the team development between the Steel Series matches and the experimental card tournament? Good. I mean, we're like a fairly new roster in the sense that a lot of new players that haven't played together. There's still like that WGS core, both in players and Coach Lori. It's been good. I mean, we've been progressing. We hope to progress more. I think after the first month or two, like I said, you'll be able to identify teams a little bit better as far as their overall skill set, their skill sets in different metas, and what their comfort picks are as far as heroes. Mac McD asks, what did the team end up doing with the winnings from the experimental tourney? Any fun group activities? No. The most that we do, and I really wish this was not the case for COVID, is mostly like food rewards. So I think for that specifically, we did like a cold stone thing for all the guys, and the team in general. I got a little something too. I'm like I want to go. Like we have like a kick-ass indoor soccer field that we played on last year. Until COVID clears up, unfortunately, we're trying to be safer on that side. But like I would love for the team to go out and go, play soccer, play basketball, go rock climbing, go see a movie together. XYZ. Unfortunately, we've been pretty limited in that regard. So yeah, not much. The guys got Cold Stone. And a caveat from me and Lori, I would say, in the sense like this is just an experimental tournament. Do better, and we'll do a better dinner, kind of thing. Liam G highlights said, not a question, but maybe a suggestion. Black and blue Boston Uprising Ulskins to match the Boston Uprising black jerseys would look like fire. Yeah, I think that's a league thing more than us, but I mean, listen, we're down. I actually saw, I think yesterday, that the Red Sox are rebranding as like blue and yellow, which was interesting because that's kind of like our shtick, but makes sense because those are Boston colors. I have a question. Gray hoodie on a gray backdrop. That's Listen. This looks like prison. I guarantee this is not prison. I was actually gonna get like a Boston Uprising flag behind me or something, but this is just like my like little office apartment area that I work out of, unfortunately. I was saying I could like tape a football in the background or something to make it more interesting. I got like a Patriots one too. Smaller version. Yeah, I'm mostly just work in this room, so I don't have a lot of interesting stuff going on in the background. How are scrims going? Great. Thank you for the question, Christian. Jaina asked, if a company like Valve made a new RTS and it was really good, would you quit your job to do that full time? No. God, no. There are some aspects of pro play that I miss, and there's a lot of aspects. Being a pro is very difficult in so many regards. Time management, drive, relationships. It's just, trust me, I value not being a pro player. Even though it was fun, I think if you're in the right mindset and you're young, it is a little freeing in the sense that all you have to worry about and think about is the game. So it's kind of like a monkish lifestyle in that regard. But as you get older, it's a very tough thing to manage real life plus being a pro. What hero would you like to see in Overwatch? I have no idea, dude. I'm sorry. I'm the wrong person to ask. The Empowerer, who might play Tracer now that Soon isn't on? I think Valentine's first up to bat on that regard. We keep an open mind. Everyone gets a chance, but yeah, Valentine I think has proved himself the most on Tracer. Jesus, being such a mature and well-spoken veteran in esports. Thank you. God, I haven't heard a compliment in so long. My little heart, my frozen grunge heart is melting before your eyes. Do you bring your good manners and civility to other games? No, I'm gonna just take that compliment and slap it because I'm pretty BM, to be honest. I'm a little toxic. In general, I try to not be, but it is hard. It is hard in many games. Overwatch, I can be pretty toxic. In general, I would say I'm not, but I feel the need to correct wrongness in this world. And when there are people who just, I don't know, doing things incorrectly, and I don't mean in game, just like horrible attitude, they're being toxic, or they're like flaming someone else, or they just constantly bitch and moan. And it's like I don't think I could ever be that what are they called, the bystander effect, where like there's enough bystanders so someone doesn't do something. Like I think I would always step in. I don't think I would, oh no, I can't do anything. And that comes into play very much in my rank games. And yeah, I'm not afraid of confrontation is what I would say. So yeah. Anyways, TD Zism says, what comp type would you say Boston looks the most impressive in scrims? I'm not going to say because we're going to be playing the same patch in the matches as we do now, but we look good in all of the comps, all of them. Amazing. What is your ideal off-season length? Probably like 3 months, 4 months maybe. I don't think it should be as long as this last one, but I think having a good break, a good length of break is good for everyone. Probably, 3, 4 months I think is pretty good. Gosh, I missed the homestand events. Me too. Well, we never really had ours, but yeah. Opinions on Dove. Dove's a good player. Seems, relatively nice. I don't know him super well, so I'm not meaning that as like a backhanded compliment. I just don't know him well enough to like give a solid answer. Changing colors anytime soon? I don't think so. I want to see the reactions of my comments, but I have to scroll chronologically. So yeah, earthquake is when I shake my desk because I'm fidgety. Do you remember the hog from a Junkertown game who complimented you? I get some compliments in game, to be honest. But there are quite a few. There are some youngsters out there who are not a fan of me for one reason or another. I would say, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I a controversial figure in the Overwatch scene in particular. So, and I wouldn't say I'm particularly well liked in some circles, some fan circles. Boston is the last team that hires talent from the OC, Australia and New Zealand region. Do you personally still look for talent in that region? Do you think it should be it should still be supported. I think 100% it should still be supported. First off, second off, we try to look at all regions. We don't really limit ourselves in that regard. So we watch like all the contenders regions when we do trials. We try to keep an open mind. We look at a lot of players. Like this last offseason, we looked at a good number of OCE players as well. But I do think that they're like I said, there are some ranked mechanics, environments that are more compelling or less compelling to player development. And then if they're is he suffering, I would say tier 2 scene too, there's an overall funnel issue within Overwatch League that makes it more and more likely that the Korean/Asian region should be more dominant. I think China is probably underrepresented, but this whole discussion could go on for a very long time. What did I do for Easter to celebrate? Absolutely nothing. I haven't celebrated many holidays since COVID hit, to be honest. Will Boston be better this season than last season? Yes, you have my word. We will be better. Pick up Sheer Cold as the academy team. Crayon needs to be back on Boston. I'm not sure we can do that. But thank you for the suggestion. I think we're probably going to be stuck to Korea this year. I don't think we have the budget to employ two different contenders teams, but it is something we considered. One Western, one Korean. So how strong is the team's bond? Extremely strong. I see the guys walking down the hallway holding hands all the time. I think everyone gets along, likes each other. So why did we decide not to have Gabalsi on the main roster? We felt at the time that Punk is all that we would need on the team. We will continue to monitor and I don't know what this word, assess Gabalsi as time continues. As I said before, I think Gabalsi is a really good player. I think he deserves to be in the league. All I can say is that we're keeping an eye on it. We still think he's a really strong player. Sorry, I'm looking for a question. What team do you see closest to Boston talent-wise? That's a hard. I have no idea, dude. Sorry. Do you see super stacked teams being a problem for the league since there's no cap space to prevent that? I mean, double-edged sword there. I think some teams waste a lot of money and don't produce. There's like an efficiency problem here in general. I think given there are some teams that I don't know how to explain this without throwing teams under the bus, so I'm going to keep it vague. Some teams do a lot with a little bit of money. Some teams do a decent amount with a decent amount of money. Some teams have a lot of money and do less than they should. I don't think there's been any team that's been like the New York Yankees who just outspend everyone by so much money that they are by far the best and they win every year. I think like Shock this year, for example, aren't the highest paying team, probably. I don't know all the details of all the contracts, so I can't say, and no one does besides Overwatch League, and they're not going to say. But one, that. And two, I don't think necessarily Shock are going to win the championship this year. Like if you gave me a 50-50 bet and you said, okay, if you bet correctly, you get $1,000. 50, do you bet Shock win or somebody else wins? I would bet someone else wins. Shock are still a very strong team. I still feel like they have a good chance to win. But if I had to bet, I would not say that they win Overwatch League on a 50-50 basis right now, 1-to-1 odds. Will Soon get paid any amount at all for the loss of his job? Yes. I answered this question earlier. The terminations rights we had made it so legally we didn't have to pay him. Of course, we still did. Soon has done nothing wrong in this situation. We try to do right by players. We try to do right by all of our staff. So he got paid based on his contract, the length that he was on the team, even though he was never, officially on the team. With your ties to the Kraft Group, did they ever come to you about being a backup COVID quarterback during the Overwatch offseason? Derek, you fucking I don't think I'm tall enough. Derek, you know how tall I am. I'm, 5'6", quite heavy set, but I'm a fast runner, and I think I could throw a football 30 yards for sure, maybe 40, maybe 50. Put that to the test someday. I think I could throw a football at least 30 yards for sure. 40 yards, maybe 50 yards, yeah. And I'm pretty quick, man. But unfortunately, no, they did not approach me with that offer. I'm wholesomely aggressive. Oh, the team, yeah, yeah. Would any player be considered the team captain headed into the season? Um, Man, I would say probably stand one, and this is me basing it on interactions, like personal interactions between the team. He kind of has that, I would say, persona about him. Um, I would say Laurie first, but if I had to pick a player, then I would say Stan One's kind of filling that for the team currently. Seneca asks, "What has been your most trying moment as head coach for Boston?" I was never the head coach for Boston. I would say the closest I was probably year one, even though I wouldn't qualify myself as that. And I would say we had so many issues, redacted issues, team culture issues that year, that there was a lot of trying moments. I would say one particular was with Kalios too. I had to ask him to leave the facility one day. That was a pretty rough too. Matt Squared asks, "Do you miss Krusty? Or do you guys still talk to each other?" We don't talk to each other. I don't think there's any animosity. I just don't talk to a ton of people. Period. Krusty was a very likable person. There, despite everything that happened season one, we had some fun, good times. I'm sure he would say the same thing. I think if we saw each other in person, we would still, even after season one, season two, all the teams were in Burbank, we still said hey to each other, hello, what's up, yada yada yada. So it's all good. I'm gonna scroll through some of these questions just because this is getting pretty lengthy. We're at over an hour. So I'll try to hit like 2 or 3 more or try to catch up. Will I start an OnlyFans? No, probably not. We'll see how this goes. Probably not. Where do I think Boston will finish? Everything goes right. Man, I think we legitimately could make a run for it, depending on the meta and everything. I think we could be easily a top 3-4 team in North America, and then it's like, by the end of the season, what meta do you get into? Who's popping off? How's the team culture? You know, how many times has the team boomed? People don't mention this, but like I guarantee every GM and coach is like looking at teams and like, man, who that team's gonna boom. That player plus that player, these coaches, there's going to be a conflict there, and everyone hears and sees things behind closed doors. So there's a lot of things. There's teams that have boomed and then gone on to win championships. Boom kind of being like a league term for some, I would say, major conflict / culture issues internally. So Jordan the Aussie asked, now that she's gone, how did you feel about Kate, the former GM of the Washington Justice, as a GM yourself? I didn't know her really well, so I can't really say. I would say, some questionable moves on her part, with the team overall. Pickups, a lot of things. But I didn't know her, so I can't pass judgment. Like I said, things are never black and white. Many shades of gray, but it's whatever. Will I play Dota? I don't play Dota. Played a long time ago. I probably not going to play it. I don't have the Dota's like a job. Dota is like StarCraft. You can't play that game casually. If you're a competitive person, you cannot play Dota, you know, every once in a while. You have to like maintain mechanics. It's like child support. You're attached at the hip to that thing. You gotta keep feeding the beast. If you don't, then you just like degrade, and then it takes time. You come back, and then you're shit, and then it takes weeks to get better. I don't have time or energy for that. Did I enjoy casting an early Overwatch scene? Yeah, it was fun. Naveed Gunny asked, "Do you have any interaction with the Kraft family?" Yeah, I have a good relationship with Robert and Jonathan. Uh, talk to them. Had breakfast at Robert's place. Humble brag. Not sure if I'm allowed to say that, but I did. It was great. Nice little breakfast. Um, yeah, I'm really toxic. Maybe I'll stream someday, but I can get pretty toxic. Not gonna lie, and I'm worried about it. Because people love to take stuff out of context. You guys don't realize um how like PTSD'd I am with this PR stuff, social stuff. When we played in the experimental tournament, right? Someone grabbed that screen cap of me saying like get the fuck out of the lobby or whatever, right? Me being through the drama and scandals of Overwatch League am traumatized. I saw that when it like wasn't upvoted at all, and I'm like, oh my god, here we go again. I'm gonna get like, this guy needs to go die. He's the worst person in the world. I hate this person. Yada yada yada. Little did like the public know, this was like an internal scrim with our main team as staff, preparing for the experimental tournament. And then before that line, it said something like, "Hey guys, best of luck, go kick ass. Hope you guys do the best." And then I wrote like, "Now get the fuck out of my lobby" or something. And then the whole team was like laughing, ZZZ, El Mayo, Rolf, good times. But people take stuff out of context, throw it, and then like, it is what it is. That thread actually was extremely positive, and people were like, thought it was so funny. But yeah, my toxicity, a clip out of context of me flaming someone in a rank game. Worried, man. It's gonna happen someday. Um, I don't remember what we had for breakfast. I don't think there was much. I think there was like cookies and stuff, and I didn't eat. Day-to-day responsibilities as GM. A lot of stuff. I mean, my job is like, I don't want to get into it. It's too long. We've been doing it for an hour and 20 minutes. Hit me next time. Huck at me. I'll answer that question. Probably takes like 5 minutes to answer. So scrims have been going great. All right. That's it. That's it, everyone. Any last questions? If there's a really good short question, I'll answer it. If not, we're cutting it here because I'm sure food's here because we eat around 6 and I'm a hungry boy. I'm a big boy. You guys can't see it, but if you saw that picture we tweeted, the graphic, I'm much bigger than what I seem right now. Much redder. Okay, seems to be it. As a fan of Boston Uprising, which team should I spit on? None of them. Don't do that. Okay. Okay. That's it. Who's the sexiest on Boston Uprising? Do you think it can answer that? Is that an HR issue? That's for sure an HR issue. We're not going to answer that. All right. That's it. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Appreciate you guys tuning in, asking questions. What's for dinner? Farm in the Dell. Place out of Massachusetts. Super good. Go there, get it. Banh mi or the egg, bacon, cheese sandwich. Great stuff. All right. Bye. Are we nice?